Welcome to Blooming Wildwood Homestead. Today we're going to look at some ideas for stocking your pantry as well as restocking your pantry if that's where you're at. I want to share with you a couple of items that I've picked up and a couple of tips when it comes to stocking your pantry. I have been to a couple of different stores over the past few days, and to say that the inflation that I'm seeing was a little bit jarring would kind of be an understatement. I've seen prices steadily increase, but it had been a little bit since I had been to the store. And so when I went there and started looking at some of the prices, it really surprised me. And maybe the biggest surprise occurred because I was really trying to find what I considered to be deals. However, I'm not really sure that the deals that I'm accustomed to finding actually exist anymore. When I say that I need to change my mindset, what I mean by that is my idea of what constitutes a deal might be different from what I'm able to find in reality. Now, that doesn't mean don't go looking for deals. It just means that my idea of a deal has not kept up with inflation. I think that's the bottom line here. So when I'm looking through the store and I'm kind of looking down the aisle, I'm noticing that there are very few items that have the little sale stickers on them. A lot of the items are just regular price. And those that did have the sale sticker were on sale for maybe 10, 15, 20 cents off. Cents. And in my mind, a deal constitutes much more than that, depending on the original price of the item, of course. I didn't think I was unrealistic, but I might be these days because, like I said, I haven't really kept up with my perception and the actual inflation. The other thing that I have to shift from a little bit is the idea that I need to get particular brands. If you're someone who has been very brand specific and you're looking to save some money as you're trying to restock, or maybe this is your first time working on a pantry and you're trying to stock a pantry on a budget, you might have to change your idea of which brands are acceptable or not be concerned with that at all. I mean, of course, if it doesn't taste good, don't go and buy more of it. But if it's something that tastes okay and is working for you, you might not be able to be quite as specific with what you're getting, just because availability, first of all, is kind of an issue. And in addition to availability, just the cost of a brand name versus a house brand is significantly different in some cases. Sometimes they're about the same, but in most cases they are significantly different. So what did I find? The first place that I went was Grocery Outlet. I did pick up a couple of cans of beans. I got some kidney beans and I got a couple of cans of pinto beans, just because even though I have dried beans and I know I can soak them overnight and use them, or I can can them myself, sometimes you run into a little gap or you need something pretty quick, and it's nice to have canned beans on hand. The other thing that I picked up at Grocery Outlet was a little can of diced green chilies. These are great for adding to roasts, or sometimes I will use them in other dishes that I'm cooking as well. Just adds a little bit of flavor and it's very convenient to have that already canned up. My goal would be that I harvest more of my hot peppers this year and I'm able to do some of my own cans of diced chilies, but I don't want to rely on that solely, so I just got a couple of cans to add to what I currently have. The other thing that I'm noticing is much more expensive or non-existent in all of the stores is pasta. And I know I've heard people talking about that with all of the wheat issues and planting issues that have gone on. I think that's a large part of why we're seeing pasta problems. and increased prices, but I'm not 100% sure what's causing the issue. I did find some whole wheat pasta. So I did pick up a package of whole wheat spaghetti, and I also picked up a box of vermicelli, just because even though pasta is pasta, sometimes, again, it's nice to add some variety, and you can do that by changing up the style of pasta. If you want to have spaghetti and you want it to be different, you could have spaghetti with your regular spaghetti noodles. You could put pasta shells. You could do the penny pasta, and it's basically the same thing, but it seems like it's something different just because you've changed up the shape of the pasta. So that's a great way to keep things kind of fun. Another place that I stopped by this week was Dollar General. I did find a couple of things to go ahead and add to my pantry. What I found was a couple of cans of the sliced carrots. I have not put up any carrots. We've had a little bit of difficulty getting the carrots to germinate and come to maturity. I think last year was really hard with the drought. We were having a hard time keeping the seed moist enough to germinate and do what it needed to do. And so I haven't had an abundance of carrots yet to be able to can myself. And it's not something that's necessarily like, oh, a make or break kind of a deal. But having some carrots on hand to add to stews is just kind of a nice thing to have available. And so I just picked up a couple of these cans. They were $1 a piece and seemed like a pretty decent value for what I can find these days. And then I went to one of our local stores, again, just looking for a couple of things. I found a couple of bags of pasta that I went ahead and picked up. Some shells, and I think I got some elbow macaroni. And then I did find, it was like $1.50 off, some horseradish sauce. Again, not an essential, but it is nice to have condiments for different things that you're making and cooking, especially as we're kind of coming up to summertime. So I thought that would be a nice addition to have on hand. And the main reason that I went to my local store was to go ahead and pick up some of the Morton canning and pickling salt. We are getting really close to canning season, and I've got some asparagus that I'm crossing my fingers will have enough to go ahead and can some pickled asparagus. And so I just wanted to make sure that I had the salt that I needed for those canning projects before we get to that point in time. We've talked about making sure that you have what you need for canning, just because you don't want to get to canning season and not have the things that you need. And so I do have some other videos about some of the supplies that you might need for canning and some of the things that might be helpful for you, and I will link those down in the description below. A few things that I learned: prices are not always what they seem. It is good. I know with the cost of gas, you're not going to be running around and price comparing at all the different places, but if something seems like that price isn't really comparable to something else that you remember, it might be worth looking it up. Sometimes, depending on which store it is, you can look up some of the items online, and then that really helps you to be able to do that price comparison right there on the spot. A couple of examples would be at one of the discount stores. I had found a can of corn, and the corn was like $1.50 something, and it seemed pretty steep. And I was thinking, well, I wanted to add a couple more cans of corn to my pantry just to have on hand. We've talked about this before, but I was able to go online and just double check with another store that I've purchased from. And sure enough, at the other store, I could get it for less than $1 a can. And so that helped me to know that even though I was at a discount place, it was still not a better deal than buying it in bulk and getting a few more cans at a time. So that's something to watch out for as you're looking at your prices and your different things. The other thing that you really have to watch out for if you're doing a price comparison between one store and another is making sure that you're comparing the same things. So if you're comparing something that is in a smaller package to something in a larger package, that's not going to work. You really want to look at that unit price, whether that's the price per ounce or the price per pound, whatever it is that you are purchasing, you want to make sure that you are comparing things equally, because if you're trying to buy in bulk versus smaller quantities, that doesn't always add up or equate. If you're trying to save some money and stock or restock your pantry on a budget, make sure that you're watching those things and comparing things equally. A couple of other buying tips that I noticed would be just making sure that you are picking up items with a great expiration date. Some of the discount stores had items that were almost expired. They were going to expire the next month. And if I was going to eat that item this week, that wouldn't really be a big deal, or even within the next month, that wouldn't be a big deal. But because I'm looking to put these away and have them on hand for more of my longer term storage, I don't want to pick up something that's going to be expiring right now. I don't want to start off with something that's almost expired, just because that's going to mess up my rotation, first of all, and is going to set me back. Speaking of rotation, when you bring items in, because I'm noticing some discrepancies with dates, you just want to make sure that the item that you're bringing in is actually going to expire after the item that you already have in your pantry, so that your rotation is being done properly. For whatever reason, whether it's because of supply chain issues, shortages, blockages, whatever the case might be, I think that we're finding items are not as fresh as they might have been in the past. And so it's just good to double check those things and be really aware of that as you are trying to stock up your pantry. The other thing that I've noticed that needs to be paid attention to would be the quality of the can. There were some cans that were starting to show some signs of a little bit of rust kind of at the top. I don't know if the cans had been stored in maybe a damp location, or maybe they had gotten wet at some point, but they were just starting to rust. And while that might not affect things again right now, if you were to save that can for 2 years or something, or even a year, you're going to see that rust grow and develop to the point where your product's not going to be good. The other thing that you have to watch out for when it comes to cans is dents. And sometimes you can't see them just by looking at the can on the shelf, because maybe it's hidden under the label, or maybe it's kind of on the bottom of the can. And so you do want to be mindful to pick up the can and just to feel if you notice any dents or anything that's going to cause your can to deteriorate or degrade more rapidly, because that's going to affect the quality of the food inside as well. And if your goal is to add to your pantry and to try and stock up a few items, again, you don't want to start out behind by having cans that are not in good condition. So I didn't find a lot of stuff at the store, as you can see, but I don't think that we have to go on massive shopping trips in order to continue to work on adding a few things to the pantry and setting ourselves up for success in the future. So anytime that you're out at the store, if you're already there, why not take a look around and see if there might be even just a handful of items that you could go ahead and add to that pantry. It doesn't have to be a full-blown shopping trip for the intention of restocking your pantry. You can just add a few items at a time, and that can be a great way to make progress on a budget, particularly with everything that we're dealing with today. I hope this video was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments down below, what are some things that you're seeing? What are some things that you're making sure that you add to your pantry as you are growing your pantry, or maybe you're restocking your pantry? And if today's video was helpful, don't forget to like, share with a friend, and subscribe if you would like to be a part of our community here at Blooming Wildwood Homestead. Until next time, bye everyone.